Hi, I'm Susan Shaner, and I'm your host today of Community Forum. And I have the great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. John Clark, who is currently the president of Western Connecticut State University, otherwise known as WestConn. Welcome, Dr. Clark.
Oh, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And I think the first and last time you were on the show, you were literally like 3 or 4 days into your tenure.
In my infancy.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're coming up on close to 2 years.
Close to 2 years, right.
Right. So how's it going?
Great. I'll tell you, one of the things that makes this a wonderful experience is people. Mm-hmm. And we have a great faculty, staff, and we just love our students. I've also found the community of Danbury. Mm-hmm. We have, great supporters and benefactors. And this is a town that I was really surprised, having been in a number of positions in New York State and in New Jersey, that the community support and the number of organizations designated to support the Danbury community is really amazing. You have a lot of involved people here, and in the short period of time, the 2 years have been, good and close friends, and as I said, great supporters of the university.
So this is interesting. So you found an unusual amount of support in the community. So in what ways, and what surprised you about it?
Thinking about it is, especially being in New York City, a lot of the folks commuted from suburbia. Mm-hmm. So there was no link to a community. Here in Danbury, we have people who not only live here, but work here and are really invested in the community, and certainly the social organizations and the help that they can afford, various causes. And that's what really impresses me, and also keeps me going on weekends, going to various events and galas and affairs in support of these organizations.
So it takes over your whole life, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's why it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So you're becoming embedded in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So I'm a very proud Danburian.
So let's talk about some of your key initiatives for the year. Right. I know that you've done some different things regarding lowering tuition for people in New York. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, our overall mantra is student success. But what we found is we've had declining enrollments over the last 7 years. Mm-hmm. And there's been a very simple reason for that, is since we're on the New York border, actually there are two reasons. One is there's a declining high school population and the declining birth rate, both in Connecticut and especially here in Fairfield County. And a lot of our feeder high schools are suffering as a result as this reduced population moves through the grades. So our traditional feeder system is down. Mm-hmm. The other half is our out-of-state tuition is $22,000. Our in-state is 10, and if you draw a map, a 35-mile square radius, essentially half of our recruiting area is in New York State.
Oh, interesting.
And so when you look at, like Brewster, I'll tell you a quick story. Yeah. And this is when we went to our border regions who were very supportive. They had a lot of questions because we assured them that, and I can tell the folks, watching us right now, our number one, our number two, and our number three preference in admissions is our in-state Connecticut residents. So we'll take care of our kids, our students first. But when we looked at our out-of-state tuition, we noticed there'd been a great drop in New York students attending WestConn, and there were actually two high schools, Brewster, New York, and Carmel, New York, who were so close. They have their high school graduations in our athletic center.
Oh,
and if you look at the Danbury Fair Mall, according to their numbers, over 40% of their weekend customers come from New York, either Northern Westchester or certainly Putnam or over from Dutchess. Mm-hmm. So our out-of-state was 22. SUNY is about 8,000, and the City University of New York, which can be accessed through Metro North, was 6. So with that type of spread, we were not getting any New York students. So our proposal to our regents were, we have to get in the conversation. I mean, these are kids who are just living right across an artificial geographical political border, and they want to come to WestConn. But because of the price spread, and a lot of these kids are from working class families, first time to go to college. So our Board of Regents were great. President Ojakian and all the senior staff were great. So we got the ability, just for 7 counties, to charge in-state tuition. So it's what we call our bordering and adjoining. It's the Hudson River Valley.
Okay.
So it's on this side of the Hudson, it's Putnam, Westchester, and Dutchess. On the other side, it's Orange, Sullivan, and Ulster, and Rockland. Because people say, well, Orange, they say, look at Newburgh. And Newburgh, you can drive from Newburgh, right across the river, right over 84, and be here under an hour.
Yeah.
So a lot of these kids are excited because now they have another option to go to.
So how does that work? Because so being regulated by the state university system,
Yes.
that you were able to get an exception for
Yes.
these counties to present like the business case?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Is because the other thing is, and I'm glad you brought up the business case, because the subsidy, the tax subsidy, which the taxpayers of Connecticut, who I am responsible for and our system's responsible for, is traditionally viewed as making education more affordable. So that's why we're able to charge the $10,000. But we had another, and it's a new problem that in the last decade has occurred, is we have students leaving the state permanently. And so what I told our Board of Regents, and we talked to our legislators, our Chamber of Commerce, is, and my pledge to them was, again, number one, Connecticut residents get first priority.
Yeah.
But number two, if we can get these New York students not only to come in and go to WestConn, but get them to stay here, that because of workforce needs.
Okay, upon graduation.
We want to attract companies here. We need a skilled workforce. We want to retain our companies here. And so we'll have these kids from New York who are used to coming here anyway.
So there was something with the just the way the criteria or the laws are written that you were able to make this sort of exception?
The Board of Regents sets the tuition.
Okay.
So what we got actually was they gave us 2 years, a 2-year pilot program to see how this works.
And what do they want to see by way of results?
They want to see the increase in enrollments.
Okay.
And they will also, what we're building is a top-notch career services department, which gets our Connecticut students jobs and internships and jobs, and also get our New York, who hopefully will become Connecticut taxpayers. When they graduate, they get a job in this area.
So that's interesting. So are you you're going to be, so you have 2 years to determine that? So meaning who's going to come here? It's a 4-year school, right? So who's going to come from one of these 7 counties into New York, but you need a longer term to really assess the return. Are they getting jobs and staying here?
Right. There's a 2-year pilot, but those students coming in this coming fall, they have a guarantee that as long as they're students at WestConn graduate, that they will receive in-state tuition. So it doesn't go away. That doesn't go away in 2 years. What the Board of Regents is saying, let's look at this for 2 years, and then let's make a case and look at it system-wide of how else, because we also have up on the Massachusetts border, as Nantucket Community College is doing the same thing with Massachusetts residents, offering the in-state, because they're right across the border from Springfield, Mass.
So they're, over these 2 years, they're going to look at and just see what was the uptick from New York?
Exactly.
Okay, but and then you'll see if it'll continue, and then you'll determine in whatever 4 or 6 years, are they really staying and getting jobs there?
Absolutely. And for us, furthermore, we talk to people, so we haven't stayed in a little room trying to figure this out. And it was gratifying talking to some of the Putnam County high school guidance counselors, because their attitude is, where have you guys been? Because we've always considered WestConn as our public university. Now that may shock people, saying, Putnam County's in New York. But when you look, the nearest SUNY institutions, New Paltz is across the Hudson River, up the river, and then there's SUNY Purchase that is, in the southeastern section of Westchester County. So the closest by far was us. So they were looking at it from the commute, but they told us before, how can we go back to working class parents saying WestConn is 22,000 and the SUNYs are 8, or they could take the, it would be more of a schlep, but they could take the Metro North back into Grand Central for 6. So now,
are you hearing anything from some of these other competitors?
We were up 157%.
Oh, really? Just in the first year?
In our New York City, those 7 New York State applications.
So your competitors, I mean, these other schools must be a little nervous.
Well, you know, what's
you're taking
happened
students
is,
away, essentially, right?
What's happened is SUNY New Paltz is an exceptional school. They're highly selective. So when you look at the 7-county population, we did not get New York City or Long Island yet. But when you look at the 7 counties, you'd be surprised at the population. Houston, I believe, in the 2010 census had a population of about 2.3 million. When you add up those 7 counties, 2.4 million. If those 7 counties constitute a city, they'd be the 3rd or 4th largest in the United States. Westchester in 2010 was 970,000 people. And when you look at their numbers and their graduating seniors, there's more than enough to go around. So for us, this is new virgin territory. But more importantly, for students, their families living in the counties, and the high school guidance counselors gives them another option, another public university that's very affordable, that we're offering our liberal arts base, but professionally oriented. So for nursing, education, criminal justice, et cetera, accounting, we offer business, we offer those.
Yeah, so do you think you're going to have anybody from outside these 7 counties say, hey, wait a minute, why are you giving them to somebody else in New York? Why can't you give it to me?
Well,
are you getting any of that now?
We'll say in the future, we're working on it, pal. We'll see how this 2-year pilot goes.
That's a problem you want to have.
Yeah. I think the future, when you're looking at in-state, out-of-state, because remember, as publics, we again, I'll repeat, the name on our door is Western Connecticut State University, originally Danbury Normal School. So we have a special priority and responsibility to the taxpayers of Connecticut to show a return, to show that we're bringing new students in to become Connecticut taxpayers who are now living in New York. But when you look at our private colleges and universities, there's no such thing as in or out-of-state tuition. For them, there's just one tuition, so they're already getting students from all over the country. What we want to do, our special mission, is to make sure that our students we have from Connecticut stay in Connecticut. That's why career services,
so
internships.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I know that's one of your focus this year too, is your career services. So what are you doing to fortify that?
Well, we've just hired a new director of career services, Kathleen Lindermeyer. Kathleen was one of the deputies at our Ansel School of Business. So she has connections throughout the region business-wise. Kathleen is a former captain in the United States Navy. So she's a go-to person, so I gave her a simple charge. I said to Kathleen, I want every student, remember when we start the freshman year, the old school used to be senior year, you wake up in your dorm room or your parents' room and have an anxiety attack. I said, no. In the freshman year, counseling for the freshmen to make sure that what they're taking and their professional aspirations, they start thinking now. And I want, at the very least, each student at least have one internship that to relates what they want to do and what they're studying. I don't want them,
So is that going to be a requirement now?
That is going to be the requirement.
That they have to have at least one internship over the course of the 4 years.
I should say that's the goal, which will become a requirement as we start to really invest in career services. My ideal is 2 internships at least, and one may both related, but if not, at least get them into dress, getting into getting to work, working maybe that extra hour. But my big dream is in that critical internship between the junior and senior year.
They have that.
That at the end of the internship, the employer goes to them saying, "You're a great WestConn kid. We're going to offer you a job when you graduate next May," so that when they come to their senior year, they'll get the degree and they'll walk right into a job.
Yeah, because sometimes people get to college and they're very focused and they know exactly what they want to do, but some need the freshman, sophomore year to kind of explore before they declare their major.
Exactly.
So you're saying, okay, that way, at least if they have it in their junior or senior year, then it meets the requirement.
Exactly.
But it's not as if, some freshmen, talk about an anxiety attack, they may feel like, I don't know what I want to do, I've got to explore it a little bit. So you're saying, yes, that allows for that.
And that's a great point, because I think prior to this, they were allowed their first 2 years to sort of wander. And in our freshman year, they will see, one of our counselors from our career services department to sit them down and say, start thinking now, what do you want to do?
So at least help them with some guidance.
Right. So we do a great job, I think, with the academic consulting, but that has to be connected. So they're not going one way in the academics and the other way in the professional aspirations. Just thinking you got to get started now, and especially if you're going to get an internship after your freshman year, even better.
So what size are your freshman classes typically?
Oh, typically we run in the age of about 1,000.
So you said your
FTE.
Ideal would be to have them sit down with a counselor, so you have the kind of resources where each freshman could spend the time with a counselor.
And what we're actually doing is investing in technology and applications, so they can actually come in to see a counselor and then go on the particular application to see what their interests are. Take a psychological test, what they may be suited for if they really don't know.
Okay, so they can take some assessments online before they
absolutely.
Okay. So that's you're beefing up in that area.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay. I know you also just got a new athletic director as well.
Yes.
And what's happening there?
Lori Mazza. Well, what Lori brings in is, Ed Farrington did a great job for a very long time, but what Lori is bringing in, as I say, new blood, and she's got a wonderful background. She has both, in these days of rules, regulations, especially Title IX, which we're dedicated to in women's sports and men's sports. She does work for the ECAC, so which is has its own enforcement division. So she knows Division I, Divisions II. But what I love about Lori, she loves Division III, and we are Division III. As you know, no scholarships. These are students who love their sports, and what sports bring, people say, well, what's the importance of sports? And I say two things. One, if you go back to the ancient Greeks, it's that ideal of the perfect body and the perfect mind, which our students exemplify. But what also happens is retention. Those students who belong to a team, not only do they have their academic counselors, hopefully they have their career service counselors, but they have their coaches. So we'll be checking on them, how they're doing academically.
I'm curious, do you have data on that? So are you saying that those students that are involved in sports, the retention might be higher than students who are not involved in sports?
Retention better, and also the GPA.
The GPA is better?
Better, yeah.
So you have the data on that?
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting, huh?
Absolutely.
Because one might think that all the time commitment for the sports might take away from their ability to focus.
See, this is what's counterintuitive, because there is national data showing that, number one, they're acquiring a time management skill, which is perfect. Once they graduate, guess what?
Yeah.
And guess when you're married, you have to pay a mortgage.
Yeah.
Both partners may be working, and you have children, and as you're trying to balance. But what national studies have shown is, and this is especially important in retention, is a student may feel, I don't want to join student government because I want to get a high GPA. But just the opposite occurs, because they learn how to time balance, and as part of student government, guess what? They're involved in the university. WestConn becomes a home to them. They're actually doing things, whether they're joining a club or whatever various form of student government in, especially if they're part of a team. Jeepers, you develop friendships, your teammates.
Yeah.
You develop those close relationship with your coaches. So there's an identification. Where the problem comes in, ironically enough, are those students who just study, go back to their room, or
they don't have enough going on in a way.
And what's WestConn? WestConn is I'm in a class, and then I'm gone again. So we really want those students to really get themselves involved in the life of the university, and they tend to do better because they identify with the university.
So we've talked about three initiatives. One is increasing the enrollment due to this really innovative way to reduce tuition costs across the state lines.
Yes, the Hudson River Valley region.
The Hudson River Valley region.
Which Danbury is the capital of.
Yeah. The second is beefing up on career services so you can help folks on the back end so they actually get jobs and they stay in the area.
Right.
You're talking about beefing up the athletics that overall helps with the student health and engagement in the university.
Right. And the intramural level too.
Okay.
And stuff like that. The other thing I just want to add in about career services is, which we're very serious about, is we'll be conducting a survey, and the survey is those students who get a job, a real job, meaning it's a job they aspire to and a job that they want. which is the equivalent of their college degree. Number two, those students may join the military in the fight against terrorism. Number three, those students are going on to excellent grad programs. But we're all proud of these three. But the fourth, the ones I'm most interested on are what we call either underemployed, maybe working in the fast food joint, nothing against fast food joints, I do indulge it while, or they're unemployed. And what we have set up is a summer fair for those students to come. So what I want to tell parents and students is that we can't guarantee you a job because we're not in charge of the economy, but what we can guarantee, and actually, I don't know the exact percentage, but I was just talking to Kathleen, head of the Career Services, is we do have a certain percentage of our alums who come back and say, I really don't like my job, it's the wrong job.
So over the life, the life cycle of their different jobs,
absolutely,
they'll come back and utilize those resources.
Absolutely.
So it's not just for the recent grads.
So it's a lifetime guarantee.
So this is good to know for those in our audience who might be listening who are WestConn grads. If they're in transition, this is a resource for them.
Yes, absolutely. Come back and call up the Career Services. You don't get your degree and bye-bye, see ya.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. So I want to just talk for a minute about something a little bit different. There's a lot of changes happening in our country. There's a lot of heated debates on different issues and a lot of activism now taking place with different things happening in the political arena. What kind of support and forums is the university supporting to help students navigate this space? Right.
There are a number of different forums we've had. Number one, our students. And we did this on purpose, to empower the students right after the election. We did have counselors there, we did have faculty members. I was not there for a reason, to let the free flow. And the students talk.
So you felt your being there might...
Yes, inhibit the conversation. And the students feel, so the Student Government Association President Roberto Caceros was there and sort of moderate the session. And it went wonderfully well because some students voted for, Secretary Clinton, others voted for Mr. now President Trump. And what people found was they were talking about the reasons why they voted. And I think it brought down a lot of the mythologies. And the students felt, there were about 50 to 60 students who came, is that they were in a safe area to discuss that. And that was our pledge, that the university is a safe place to express your opinion, because that's the very nature of our country. The second thing are university-sponsored events. So really, we're there to share our wisdom with our students as we pass wisdom from one generation to the next. So we had two major events. One, just last month, we had the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Lema Bowie, come. Lema Bowie, a lot of people may not know the name, but she's a courageous figure. If you remember the horrible Liberian civil wars, she and her co-recipient confronted a fellow by the name of Charles Taylor, who was convicted of genocide and is serving a life sentence. He was a fellow drugging up 10 or 12-year-old boys and machine guns. But they finally went and confront at the risk of their lives. And so Friday she gave a lecture on her experience, on how important peace is, but more importantly, as you're suggesting, is to get up and be counted. Let your voice be counted, and we can fight this. And then the weekend we had a whole bunch of workshops, especially for middle schoolers, to learn about peace, to learn about what happened in Liberia.
That's fantastic. I mean, I know some of these events are open to the public, right?
Oh, yes.
So
that event was open to the public,
yeah,
yes.
So how would people find out about these events?
It's usually through our marketing, through our website, and sometimes, we'll use the local radio stations, television stations, wherever we can get out to market. Because we did the same thing with our race policing community and you. This was, again, co-sponsored with our Latin American Student Organization and our Black Student Association. We felt our students should feel, we had Chief Patrick Ridnour on, our first African American police chief, on a panel with our campus police chief. The Connecticut State Police were represented, and we had two students on a panel discussing, the approach and why they should feel safe what we're doing to guarantee their safety on campus. Also following programs to keep this going, with the Danbury Police. We have a great relationship with our WestConn police, and that they're there and our police are there for their safety, so we have no incidents like this in Danbury.
So if students have concerns, what are the forms and vehicles through which they can voice their concerns?
Well, now we have, and largely because of our WestConn police, who get a kick out of this, we have coffee with a cop.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really? Is that like on a weekly basis or something?
This is on a regular monthly basis.
Okay.
They'll have it at WestConn. And we've talked about possible programs, riding with the police, so the students understand how the police view things. But the most important thing
that's great.
for our police, who are very well trained, is that they know you, so they can, as they're patrolling, they can wave. That's, one of our students we just had a coffee with, and that type of personal interactions,
And
really
students
help.
are taking advantage of that?
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
What's the feedback you're getting?
Feedback is excellent. And it's the way our police handle things, because our police know, look, these are your students. Treat them as your kids.
Yeah.
So there's an amount of discretion, and we have our whole disciplinary hearing if somebody gets out of line. But for the most part, it's there to support our students.
So it's more like you're fostering the relationship, coffee with a cop. So there's ongoing dialogue, and it's not a need if something comes up, but it's ongoing. They already have the relationship.
This is an old concept of, and when I was growing up in New York City, is before they put cops in cars, you had your beat cop. And the beat cop usually lived in the neighborhood and knew everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So there was no threat, like, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah, exactly.
That unknown factor was taken out. And so what we're trying to get with our students is the police are here to help.
Yeah.
And there's a way to accord, and they're here to talk.
So we have like 2 more minutes.
Sure.
What do you want your parting words to be in terms of the progress you've made with the university and where you continue to build on the strengths of the university?
Right, and I think you've hit on both. With the forums, et cetera, that's why we tell people, for some reason, liberal arts has gotten a bad reputation, like it doesn't lead to a job. Well, what we combine at Western Connecticut, our mantra is student success. That's why we're there for. We're there for the kids from the middle class families, the working class families, and the poor kids that come and bloom at Western Connecticut. But we want to give them the liberal arts perspective to broaden their horizons and these important issues that they're going to face as adults. This is American society, so be aware of the problems and, get our wisdom. And then also, you're here to get a job and a credential. And whether you're going into nursing or business, or criminal, we have a great criminal justice program, our performing arts, we're number one, is you can get a first-rate quality education at WestConn with our support at affordable cost. And that's our other mantra is we never want to see a student drop out because of financial need. We know there are those cases, but we'll do everything possible to make sure that they can graduate and then they can bloom and live the American dream.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been great. Thank you for coming on again, Dr.
My
Clark.
pleasure. Love to do it.
Hope to have you on again when we have another update. Okay, thank you.
Great.
I'm Susan Shaner with Community Forum. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.